All right, guys. So today we're doing graphing linear inequalities. This is similar to when we were doing graphing linear equations, but there are a few additional things that we have to keep in mind. So when we're graphing, we start with solving for y. So make sure our equations are in y equals mx plus b. Then we plot the y-intercept. So that y-intercept that we're aware of, the b, and the slope, right, our m. We underline those for us. After that, using those inequality signs, we decided if the line is going to be solid or dashed. And then we shade above or below that line that we've created. So these are the two new components that we haven't done before, and that's new for us. So our golden rule, when you multiply or divide both sides by a negative number, you flip that inequality sign. And we have done this before, so you'll recognize some of the steps for sure. This is definitely on our major grade assignment, so keep this in mind. So for a point to be a solution, it must be on a solid line and be in the shaded area. And for a point to not be a solution, it must be on a dashed line and not be in the shaded area. So we're going to take a look at these solid lines and dashed lines. For these types of lines, the inequality signs will look like this. So that's for our solid lines. For our dashed lines, our inequalities would look like this. Okay. Okay, to know if we're shading above our line, we would take a look at our inequality sign. So if our inequality sign looks like this, we would shade above. If our inequality sign looks like this, we would shade below the line. And a nice trick that Ms. Richardson and I were talking about was if you're shading above the line, you can think of up. Notice how that P is made by the inequality sign. And if you're shading below, it would be down. And that inequality sign makes that D for down. This is just a trick to help us remember where we should shade. Okay, we're going to do example 1. So it says graph 2x minus 3y is less than 12. So this looks similar to our normal linear equations. What we need to do first is solve for y. So we circle that negative 3y. We get rid of, let me draw my line down, hold on. Okay. We get rid of that 2x, right? To get rid of the positive 2x, we subtract that 2x from both sides. 2x minus 2x cancels out. We bring down our negative 3y. We bring down our inequality sign. And we cannot combine that negative 2x and our 12 because they don't have the same last name. So we just write them next to each other. That's all we do. From there, that negative 3 is multiplying to our y. So to get rid of our multiplying 3, we divide by negative 3 under all of them. Big flag, we're dividing by a negative, so let's circle our negatives. What does that mean? We flip our sign. So our sign is going to be flipped. Negative 3 divided by negative 3 would reduce to 1. Negative divided by negative becomes a positive, so that's 2 over 3x. And then 12 divided by negative 3 would be negative 4. Okay, so we have our equation in a nice y equals mx plus b form. From here, we know what our slope is, right? Our slope is 2 over 3. We also know our y-intercept. It's going to be negative 4. So we'll write those in. From our inequality sign, we know that we are going to be having a dotted or a dashed line, right? Remember our notes earlier. So dotted or dashed. that inequality sign will also tell us where we're going to shade, right? So notice which way it's pointing. I can make the word up with that inequality sign, right? So see how I did that? So that means I'm going to be shading above my graph. So above. Okay, we have all of our information now, so let's go ahead and start graphing. So we always start at our B, our y-intercept. It's going to be on our y-axis, so remember that. -4. Our slope is going to tell us how we're going to move, right? So up 2 over 3. Remember, rise over run. So up 2 over 3. 1, 2, 3. And then you just keep doing that until you finish your line. 1, 2, 3. Oops. Oh, I wish it would stop doing that. Okay, so we drew our dots. So now we know this is a dotted line. So I'm going to draw my dotted or dashed line. Draw my arrows to show that this is a line. And then I'm shading above the graph. So I'm going to get a nice highlighter so we can shade above. Okay. All right. So let's take a look at these questions that they give us here. They say, is the point 3, -2, so that's our x and our y, right? Is the point 3, -2 in the solution? So let's find 3, -2. 3, -2. Oh, that's directly on top of our dotted or dashed line. So one of the things that we discussed above in our notes, right? If it's on a dashed line, it is not a solution. So 3, -2 is not going to be a solution. So we're going to write that down. Not a solution because it's on a dotted line. Okay. They ask us, is the point 0, 0 in the solution? That's our x and our y. 0, 0 is our origin, right? So let's find that. Oh, it's in the shaded area, right? So if we remember from our notes, it is a solution because it's in the shaded area. They say name a point in the solution. So let's find any random point in the shaded area, right? I'll pick here. So that point right there is a 4, 5. And then they say name a point not in the solution. So I'm just going to pick a point that's not in the shaded area. So right here. So that's 4, -6. Okay. And that'll be it for example 1. Let's move on to example 2. So they say graph x is less than -5. Okay. Notice in this equation we're missing a variable. We're missing our y, right? So whenever we miss our y, something's happening to Kyle. If y'all remember Kyle, what's he doing? He's dying. Miss Richardson's laughing over there. Kyle is dying, guys. Okay, so our line, our line is straight up and down, right? Okay, he's straight up and down. He's dying. Where do we draw that up and down line? It says -5 here, so let me draw that point at -5. Our sign is not having that line underneath it. So that means that it's going to be a dotted line, right? So a dotted up and down line. So notice how I'm drawing that line, drawing my arrows at the ends. And then it says x is less than -5. Okay, so that means all the x values that are less than -5. That's going to be on my left side, right? Keeps getting more and more negative. They become less and less than -5. So all of these over here are considered part of my solution. So then they ask, is the point -5, 0 in the solution? -5, 0 is just that point right there. Notice it's on a dotted line, right, guys? So if it's on a dotted line, it's not a solution. Okay. Then they ask, is -3, 8 in the solution? So -3 up 8. It's not in the shaded area, right? So no, it's not a solution. Okay. Let's take a look at example 3. Which coordinate pair is in the solution set of y is greater than or equal to 2 over 3x minus 4? Okay, first let's identify all the items in our equation here, right? So we know our slope, right? It's that number in front of x, so 2 over 3. We know our y-intercept, it's going to be -4. Look at that inequality sign. It tells us that our line is going to be a solid line, right? So a solid line. And then it tells us where we're going to shade. So if I draw my line down, it forms that P where I am shading up. So I'm shading above or up. Okay. So now I can draw my line. I have all the information I need. Let's start with my y-intercept. So my y-intercept will always be on my y-axis. So -4. And then my slope, 2 over 3, tells me how I'm going up and to the right. So rise over run, right? So up 2 over 3. And I just keep going. Okay. So I formed my dots. Now I can draw my solid line. Let's do dark blue. My solid line with my arrows. And I'm shading above that line. Let's use a green this time. Okay. So the question is asking which coordinate pair is the solution. So which one of these, A, B, C, or D, is considered a solution? So let's test out each of the points, right? 6, -6, that's my x and my y. So 6, -6 will be down here. Oh, that's not in a shaded area, so no. Cross that out. Let's look at B, -2, -7. -2, -7. Oops. That also doesn't fit, right? It's not in a shaded area. So that will cancel. 1, -4. That's also not in a shaded area. Let's try D, the last one. So 3, -2. Oh, that's directly on our solid line. So if it's on a solid line, then yes, it'll work. It's considered a solution. So D is our answer. Okay, let's look at example 4. Which graph represents the inequality y minus 18 is less than -2 over 7 times x plus 7? Okay, that's a real mouthful. But by the way, guys, this is the type of question that will be on the STAR test. So keep in mind how we're solving this, okay? We're going to use a few tricks up our sleeves to do this. So before we even solve anything or solve for y, let's take a look at that inequality sign. It tells us, right, first off, that our line is not going to be solid. It's going to be dashed. So immediately we can already cancel out that C and B answer option. Okay. From there, we can take a look at a number in front of y, right? We don't have a number, so that means we have a 1, a positive 1 in front of that y. And if it's a positive number, that means that at the end of our solving for y, we're not going to divide by a negative. So our sign will stay the same. So that means that our sign will form the word down, and we're going to shade below the line. So that tells us that our only answer option available is D, that will fit this equation. But just for the sake of knowing how it all happens, I'm going to solve for y. So we put it in y equals mx plus b, okay? So our first step, order of operations, will tell us that negative 2 over 7 will dance with x, right? We have those parentheses there. So negative 2 over 7x. Negative 2 over 7 will dance with the richest kid in the room. That'll give us negative 2. I bring down my inequality sign, and I bring down my y minus 18. My last step will be to add 18 to both sides, right? Those cancel out, and I bring everything else down. Negative 2 plus 18 will give me positive 16. And notice my sign is still facing the same direction. So that tells us that our answer option is indeed D. All right, guys.